Mr. President, any reaction to the Teamsters' decision not to endorse?
No, they were. It's a great honor. They're not going to endorse the Democrats. That's a big thing. And this is the first time in, I guess, 50, 60 years that that's happened. Democrats automatically have the Teamsters. They took a vote, and I guess I was at 60% or more. And that's a great honor. I mean, it's really, I've had a lot of Teamsters work for me, a lot of the concrete trucks. They built all these buildings that you see in New York City, the Teamsters. Exclusively Teamsters, I have to say. They've done a great job. But the vote of the Teamsters themselves was very high for me. And the leadership, Sean O'Brien and the group, who are great people, they said we can't endorse the Democrats. So I think this is the first time in many decades that they haven't endorsed Democrats.
Donald Trump just came off of a very successful rally in the state of New York, whereas Kamala Harris just lost the endorsement of a very major labor union in the United States. We'll give you both of those stories from the campaign trail in today's video, folks. So if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. With that said, here were some of the sights and sounds of the Trump rally in New York today.
And I'm thrilled to be back in the state I love with thousands of proud, patriotic New Yorkers who are really the heart and soul of America. We know that. And the reason I'm here is because it hasn't been done in many decades. It hasn't been done for a long time, but we are going to win New York.
So obviously, every time Trump goes back to his home state, it is fun, it is good optics, he gets a very thunderous approval. But of course, reasonably minded people may also be asking the question of why? Why go to New York at this point in the election? We're just 2 months away, and realistically, I know some people like to dream. We are not going to flip New York at the presidential level. So what is the point? Well, the answer is actually in the House races, right? If you remember back to 2022, it was those key, I believe there's 4 or a couple more swing districts in the state of New York that can be very big, and they actually did in 2022 because it was so close. They decided the entire Republican control of the House of Representatives, and you can tell right now Trump is focused on that. Trump wants to make sure he has governmental power, assuming he wins the election. So, you know, not something you want to be doing on the campaign trail every day, but hey, go boost that turnout in New York for those House candidates. Very important in my opinion, and definitely worth it. But on the flip side, so this is something I've been saying for a long time, is what I see from the Trump campaign is they are focused on the little things. And hey, going to New York when you're quietly trying to push those House races a little bit is an example of that. Well, in contrast, largely thanks to her own arrogance, today, the Teamsters Union, you may remember that was the union president that spoke at the RNC, came out and said that they would not be endorsing anyone for 2024. And that is historic. I don't want anyone to downplay that because, first of all, the Teamsters Union is one of the largest labor unions, not just in the United States, but the entire world. They currently boast 1.3 million members. And again, the fact that they are not endorsing Kamala Harris, well, if you know anything about electoral politics, I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that Democrats are historically the party of organized labor. And that's a big way they win the elections, is getting all these union members to go out and vote for them. But it seems now that's not really necessarily the case.
John, this just in. The Teamsters are releasing the results of their member polling on which presidential candidate to back. And here it is, 31% say they support Harris compared to 58% who say they support Trump. The union typically backs Democrat candidates, but has delayed its endorsement in this contest. The union's general executive board expects to announce a decision at some point today. So take from that what you will.
Oh my, put that back up on the screen. Holy moly.
Yep.
Trump, they prefer 58 to 31 over Harris in the Teamsters.
Yep.
If that is the actual number and the Teamsters doesn't come out and endorse Trump, something's wrong.
58 to 31. That is the lead that Donald Trump boasts over Kamala Harris with union members, right? This is historic. This is not something that should be underestimated. That is absolutely crazy and insane. It basically explains the reason why Teamsters said they will not be endorsing a Democrat this time around. And it almost begs the question, if your members support Donald Trump so overwhelmingly, why don't you just come out and endorse Trump outright? And that's a question for another day. Maybe it's a valid thing to say, but I do want to point out the history here, folks. This is the first time in the entire 21st century that the Teamsters Union, again, 1.3 million members, will not be endorsing the Democrat candidate for president. The last time they didn't do it was 1996. They did not endorse Bill Clinton, and in 1988 did not endorse Michael Dukakis, who is somebody that obviously, if you're Kamala Harris, you don't want to really be in the company of. But why do I attribute it so much to Kamala Harris's arrogance? Well, take a listen and let's remember the story of why the Teamsters president was not speaking at the DNC like usually you would expect.
I'm going to say this. Whatever the critics out there, and they're very few in the leadership, whenever I get an opportunity to highlight the American worker, especially the Teamster worker, I'm going to take any and all venue. We asked both conventions respectively at the same time, and the Republican National Convention immediately responded to us, didn't try and edit any of our messages, and I was hopeful that the Democrats would do the same, but they didn't. I'm not upset about it, but I can tell you this, my rank and file members who have been lifelong Democrats are not happy about it.
Again, their arrogance is honestly just mind-blowing. You know, this is the party, the Democrats are the party historically of organized labor. They're still out there in 2024 chanting union yes at their convention. And you have one of the largest labor union presidents in the whole country wants to come and speak at your convention, and you tell them no? It just does not even make any sense. And assuming, honestly, if you just said yes, if they just accepted it, he probably would be out there endorsing Kamala Harris right now. He leans towards the Democrats. He doesn't really necessarily want to be doing this, but they keep alienating people that should be their voters, and this is the issue.
Kayla, this is something that hasn't happened in decades.
It hasn't happened since 1996, Brianna, and you mentioned that unions were a critical component of President Biden's winning coalition back in 2020.
And folks, you don't think that decision is going to make a difference? Well, take a look at the Teamsters Union member poll of June compared to now. In June, it was 44% Biden, 36% Trump amongst their members. Now, in September, after again, they refused to let this guy speak, it is now 58% Trump, 31% Kamala Harris. Again, that is what happens when you neglect the little things. And this is the same exact story that we saw with RFK, right? RFK, before he went out and endorsed Trump, which is now something that the Democrats are coping and saying, hey, that was a sure thing. He was always an op. He was always going to do that. Let's not forget, RFK Jr. wanted to also meet with Kamala Harris. And guess who said no? Kamala Harris.
I reached out to her, and I reached out through a number of people, including some relatives of mine who are very, very close to her personally and to the Democratic Party, and they just said, that's a non-starter. There's no way in the world that she's going to talk to you. And they said, we can get you a meeting with a low-level campaign official. And I said, okay, I'm not interested in that.
Why wouldn't, it's interesting, why wouldn't Kamala Harris meet with you?
Maybe the same reason that she hasn't given an interview. You know, I think it seems to me that there's a lot of handlers involved. And you know, even when you talk to Democrats about, you know, do you really think it's a good idea to be electing somebody who cannot give an interview?
Folks, let me just say this. The Democrats hope that they really are winning this election big, because if it is a close election, let me say this right now, these things are going to make a difference, right? The fact that Trump picked up the phone with RFK and Kamala Harris refused, that makes the difference in a close election, because now what is RFK doing? Campaigning and endorsing Trump. The fact that Trump was willing to allow the Teamsters Union to come speak at the RNC and the DNC just said, no, we don't need you. We don't care about you. Go be with the Republicans. Screw you, man. The fact that they said that in a state like Michigan, right? Big union auto worker state, in states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania with the white working class, That's going to make a difference. Do not underestimate. That can make the literal difference. It's the fact that Trump is willing to do them. Kamala Harris is not. She's very arrogant, right? Even the DNC messaging, they essentially believe they can just rely on their own base, their own core of voters to win. They don't need independents. They don't need white working class people. They apparently don't even need union workers at this point. It is a giant mystery. But hey, I guess ultimately we will see what happens, because I definitely foresee a scenario where the arrogance of the Kamala Harris campaign genuinely comes back to bite them. It's very apparent. It's very obvious. That said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.